Do I just say it?
Oh my god. What the man?
Sometimes nature takes familiar creatures in strange and unexpected directions, turning animals we know and love into something almost unrecognizable. From hauntingly sinister, double-muscled mutant pigs to a massive Frogzilla just found living in Texas, here are the 20 craziest animal mutations in the world. Number 20. Two-headed lizard. This is an unusual animal, but as we're beginning to see, there may be more two-headed creatures in the world than we ever thought possible before. In fact, by the time we get through with today's video, we may have accepted these animals as normal and run-of-the-mill, just as much as all the one-headed, boring kinds. Who could possibly say? This video captures the moment that this two-headed lizard enjoys a spot of dinner. Well, to be perfectly honest, this is more of a two-headed lizard that seems to share a tail, but that's neither here nor there. This is apparently a pet lizard, a two for the price of one, if you will. Their owner in China has filmed the unusual animals as they both eat a woodlouse at exactly the same moment. Now, this is likely just a coincidence or a bit of lizard-based choreography, because they clearly do not share a brain. The condition is known as polycephaly. It's similar to what happens when conjoined twins are formed. The embryo begins to split, like when twins develop, but then stops before it's completely divided. It's really difficult for lizards with this condition to survive long in the wild. They're easy prey for all kinds of predators, as they are slow-moving and perhaps because they can't decide which way to go. Anyway, all jokes aside, these lizards are also known to fight each other. I mean, seriously, the two heads behave as if they're separate and in competition with each other for food. It's even been known that one head will kill the other in an effort to win the fight. Number 19. Piglet with two heads. It's the stuff of comic books or maybe stories set in radioactive hotspots, but it's a double-headed pig. And is it just a load of old hogwash? Or maybe there's something to this twisty tale. Occasionally, there are stories of animals being born with two heads or extra legs and such. It actually does happen from time to time, so although surprising, the pig farmer's discovery that one of the piglets in his latest litter had been born with two snouts is not all that unique. The condition actually has a name. Scientists call it axial bifurcation, an embryonic development that results in an animal being born with two heads. This little piggy was born with 3 eyes, 2 noses, and 2 mouths, while the rest of the litter were all equipped with the regular old number of everything. The little piglet caused quite the stir among the locals. As news spread about the unusual animal, loads of people began to turn up to see the strange thing, and one visitor even offered to purchase it. The farmer's son had asked if he could keep it, though, so that he could raise it himself. So here's a tiny new piglet, which seems to have been born with 2 snouts, 2 ears, 2 main eyes, and a shared eye in between. But sadly, even though it caused quite the ruffle, it would have been very unlikely to survive very long in that condition. Alongside the obvious external features that were doubled up and fused together, the internal organs can also be in an irregular formation, leading to major issues and often death. This specific deformity is usually the result of axial bifurcation, when an embryo begins to split into 2 separate organisms but, for unknown reasons, the process stops and the splitting does not get completed. This happens to many different animals, from piglets to people to snakes and even cows. Now, if you happen to live in a remote, likely kind of boring village in the depths of China, entertainment could be hard to come by, but otherwise, is this really the best that INDBC News could muster up for a story that day? Number 18. Muscle-mutated pigs. This is a super creepy idea that some lunatics in a lab have summoned up from the depths of hell. Apparently, back in 2017, there was some notion that, heaven forbid, there might be a pork shortage. And in an effort to make sure nobody would have to suffer with slightly less meat on their plate, some Frankenstein-inspired scientists came up with the idea of growing double-muscle pigs. Applause! This is a hideous process that involves a lot of tinkering with the genetics of animals and selective breeding programs in order to produce a genetic mutation that essentially creates massively oversized animals. It's absolutely terrifying. Number 17. Goat born with 8 legs. You've got to be kidding me. Is it a spider, or an octopus, or a squid? Oh no, it's a goat. When a goat gave birth to this kid with 8 legs, surprised locals flocked to see the baby goat, calling the animal a miracle. Back in 2014, the baby goat was born in Croatia with 8 legs, and on that particular occasion, vets examined the little animal and decided that the extra legs were the result of conjoining with an undeveloped twin in utero. Sadly, these special animals born with unusual bodies have less chance of survival as they grow, and let's hope this leggy animal was one of the lucky ones. Animal experts have weighed in on the once-in-a-blue-moon event, stating that this unusual number of legs was actually caused by an altered gene or a mutation. And although it is a very rare thing, it has happened before. It happened again a few years later in a village in India, causing the same sort of general hoo-ha and incredulous response from locals. In India, however, people said that this makes the goat kind of holy and way cooler than a regular old boring 4-legged goat. Number 16. Calf born with 2 heads. Here we are in Brazil, in the municipality of Nova Venetia, and we're witnessing the very unusual and frankly pretty sad situation in which a calf was born with two heads. Now, naturally, the media has decided with all of their usual compassion and grace to name this the two-headed mutant cow. Sadly for this calf, however, it did not seem that it would stand much chance of survival. It was unable to stand, and because of its shape, it could not feed naturally. The chances of survival for animals born with two heads are lower than those with the requisite number, for a multitude of reasons. But just being born alive is a remarkable thing for a calf like this in the first place. Now it's time for today's topic. A Texas man made a shocking discovery while out hunting near a quiet pond. While scanning the area, he stumbled upon a massive 5-foot-long frog that looked like it belonged in a horror movie rather than a small Texas pond. The enormous amphibian, which he nicknamed Frogzilla, had an unusual, muscular build and strange coloring on its skin. It was unlike any frog he had ever seen. Curious and concerned, he contacted local wildlife experts, who were equally stunned. Scientists arrived to examine the creature, quickly noting that its size and mutated features were beyond any known species. They speculated that Frogzilla's massive size might be linked to pollution and chemical runoff in the local water systems. These pollutants, they explained, could be causing genetic mutations, leading to the birth of such oversized mutant creatures. Frogzilla has become a viral sensation, but it also serves as a grim reminder. Experts warn that this might just be the beginning of larger ecological consequences. They say this mutant frog is a sign that human pollution is creating unnatural changes in the environment. The discovery has sparked concern nationwide, urging people to take the health of our ecosystems seriously before it's too late. Number 15. Two-headed albino turtle. Sometimes people are extremely excited by these sorts of unusual creatures because, apparently, they can be worth a whole lot of money. I mean, who would have ever thought that profit would be the driving force behind any kind of human behavior? But here we are. One such animal that caused quite the stir on account of its rarity was this two-headed albino turtle. This little creature was born on a farm in Bangkok, Thailand. It's a red-eared slider turtle and was born not only as a rare albino animal, but also with two heads. Unfortunately, this sort of mutation makes life extremely difficult for animals like this. The turtle may not have the same life expectancy as a turtle that's just had the regular number of heads. But despite the changes and challenges to, well, being alive, the farmer who was caring for the turtle has decided, somewhat inexplicably, that the person who buys the animal will have good luck. Well, you probably do need to offer a kind of package deal when you're selling a turtle that may not survive, for the exorbitant price of $31,500. Number 14. Russian blue kitten. As if the internet was not already stuffed full of cute cat videos, here's another one, and it is as cute as it is weird. This is Midas. He's a Russian blue kitten, and as you can probably tell, he has 4 ears. Yes, that's 2 extra than the regulation amount. Midas is definitely super cute, but he suffers from a genetic mutation that has left him with these extra ears and also a deformed jaw. Despite this, he's doing well and even has a social media following of his own. At last count, he had over 100,000 Instagram followers. That is really earsome. His extra ears don't actually enhance his hearing. Instead, they're simply smaller, non-functional appendages next to his normal ones. Midas's unique look has made him a star, with fans eagerly following his daily adventures and playtime antics online. His owner reports that he's just as playful and affectionate as any other kitten, despite his unusual appearance. Midas has even partnered with a few pet brands, with proceeds going to animal rescue charities, helping to raise awareness for other animals with special needs. His story reminds people of the beauty in diversity and how every animal deserves love, regardless of their quirks. Number 13. Hind legs of a dolphin. Wait, what now? I know what you're thinking, and you're definitely correct. Dolphins do not have legs, hind or otherwise. But according to this piece of nonsense, this bottlenose dolphin has an extra set of fins, which, in Internet Bizarro world anyway, is akin to hind legs. All the way back in 2006, some Japanese fishermen happened upon a dolphin with an extra set of fins. This set the news agencies ablaze, as everyone asked a lot of questions about what it could all mean. Well, it turns out that it could actually mean that the dolphin is providing more clues about the evolution of life on Earth. Japanese researchers who were involved in the subsequent study of the captured sea creature said that the second set of fins were considerably smaller than the dolphin's first set. They are around the size of adult human hands and are located near the dolphin's tail on the underside. This is not the first time that a dolphin has been seen with unusual protrusions in this area, but this one was especially well-formed and even had fins. It offers up some valuable clues about a time when it's believed that ancient ancestors of these creatures may have lived on land. There's fossil evidence that about 50 million years ago, Dolphins and whales had 4 feet and were actually land-based, kind of more closely related to modern animals like the hippo and the deer than other sea-based creatures. They suggest that a mutation in the genes of some dolphins could cause the ancient trait to be slightly more visible from time to time. Number 12. The three-eyed snake. Next up, we have a snake which may have been especially spiritual, or perhaps it was simply born this way as a result of a genetic mutation or gestational issue. Who can possibly say? Anyways, this snake was discovered by some park rangers near a highway in the improbably named Humpty Doo, which is actually a real town in the Northern Territory of Australia, about 45 minutes from the city of Darwin. The juvenile snake was then taken by park rangers to be properly examined. They did an X-ray to determine that it had only one skull and that the extra eyeball was not because of any fused parts. It seems that the snake probably had a mutation in its very early development that led to the growth of an extra eyeball. But perhaps it's also something spookier than that. Could it be aliens? Or perhaps radioactive waste? Maybe it's just a snake being spiritual. If you've ever heard anyone talk about the third eye, or perhaps you're interested in all the things that opening up one so-called third eye can offer, you may likely know or like to know that this is a religious belief in both Hinduism and Buddhism. It says that the third eye is an energy center located between your eyebrows. So, does that mean you get a literal eye and superhuman vision then? No, don't be silly. This is a chakra or energy point that's associated with people's intuition and imagination. For many with a spiritual bent, it's of great interest to open it up. The way that people do this tends to be through meditation, and it's said to be associated with the pineal and pituitary glands in the brain. Though it's not an actual physical thing, it's really just a way of explaining how some people like to believe they can have deeper access to stuff like foresight and intuition. The real question becomes, does a snake with a literal third eye have magical powers to see into the future? Go ahead and have a bunch of opinions about it in the comments section down below. I know that you want to. Number 11. Henry the hexapus. Although it may seem as though this is an octopus who has had an unfortunate incident befall him, it actually turns out to be that it's a sea creature that's naturally a 6-legged animal, and rather than an octopus, he should technically be known as a hexapus. This is Henry the hexapus, or at least that's how he's known by the keepers at the Blackpool Sea Life Centre in the northwest of England. Henry was born with 6 legs instead of 8 as the result of a genetic anomaly. He's utterly unique and believed to be the only 6-legged octopus of his kind known anywhere in the whole wide world. His unusual features were first recognized all the way back in 2008, and he was deemed so extremely interesting that the aquarium decided to make an exhibition in which he would be the star of the show. Visitors were thrilled by Henry's rare anatomy, as it challenged what people thought they knew about octopuses and marine biology. While octopuses are typically known for their impressive intelligence and ability to escape enclosures, Henry's unique physique seemed to attract even more fascination. The exhibition highlighted the mysteries of genetic mutations in the animal kingdom, sparking conversations about how adaptations can sometimes lead to surprising features. Interestingly, his 6 legs didn't seem to impede his movement or agility, as he moved as gracefully as his 8-legged counterparts. Henry's presence at the aquarium also brought awareness to the importance of protecting diverse marine life, no matter how unusual they may seem. The expo was called Suckers, and people from all over went to count his legs and see for themselves the only known hexapus. Isn't it a funny old world? Number 10. Earless rabbit. And now for something as worrying as it is weird. This is the story of a rabbit that was born without ears. As well as being an especially humiliating thing for the rabbit in question. I mean, ears are essentially a defining feature of a bunny rabbit, and without them, it seems as if it could result in some pretty unpleasant playground bullying amongst the bunny's peers, not to mention the general confusion and potential safety problems that a lack of lugs can mean for a rabbit. This particular rabbit appears to have been born in close proximity to the leaking nuclear plant at Fukushima in Japan. It's not exactly what you would call splendid news, especially not for all living creatures in any kind of proximity to the plant, but also for all the living creatures on planet Earth, to be honest. Essentially, it looks as though the leaking radiation from the ill-fated Fukushima nuclear power plant is leaching into the environment, and that's already having a profound effect on the wildlife of the area. Rabbits are famous for their ability to reproduce at a rapid rate, so their absorption of the toxic radiation could be showing up in these weird mutations earlier than they might show up in slower reproducing species, like people, for example. It is the stuff of comic books, but not really in a cool way. Number 9. Half bird, half fish. Here we have a disturbing bit of footage of a fish out of water as it struggles to breathe, what with being out of water and such, because it's a fish and not a bird. But this is the internet, so we have to consider that it is a never-before-seen creature that has somehow been created from a bird and a fish. According to a newspaper in China, the fish is a regular sort of freshwater carp. Its head has an unusual bulbous appearance that was most likely caused by a genetic mutation or a developmental problem. According to pretty much every person who knows anything about birds and fish, this is not a fish-bird hybrid, it's just a fish. The shape of the head can be caused by defective cell growth that is likely due to a deformity in the skeleton of the head, which has caused the mouth to appear at a different angle. Similar mutations have been seen in other fish species as well, often resulting from environmental factors or contaminants in the water. Fish deformities can sometimes make it harder for them to survive in the wild, as odd shapes or restricted movement may affect their ability to catch food or avoid predators. In this case, the fish's head shape doesn't seem to impair its ability to breathe underwater, but it does make it look quite unusual. This particular carp likely lived in a habitat where pollutants or genetic factors could have influenced its development. Some scientists believe that studying such deformities can help shed light on the environmental health of aquatic ecosystems. So, still a fish and not a bird, and definitely not a birdfish. Glad we cleared that one up. Let's just move swiftly on. Number 8. Two-headed sharks. Occasionally in nature, there are cases of conjoined twins that actually make it to full term and are born, but then sadly have no way to survive once they're outside the womb. There are often cases in which the babies are discovered either dead already or sometimes in the bodies of their mothers after the mother has also expired. It's a really sad state of affairs. Weirdly, the phenomenon of the two-headed shark seems to be occurring more and more frequently, or at least that's how it seems. Could be just, of course, that we are now able to share images from all around the world in a much more ready fashion. So perhaps fishermen have always found these strange things, but in the past, they just couldn't take a picture and post it on the internet for everyone else to see. Anyways, there have been several recorded sightings of these two-headed shark babies in the last couple of decades. One case was in the waters just off the coast of Florida, which is an especially sharky place famous for its shark fishing expeditions, where a fisherman apparently managed to haul in a female bull shark whose uterus had inside of it a two-headed fetus. Then in 2008, all the way out in the Indian Ocean, some other fishermen came across a blue shark embryo with two heads. It's weird, and it's sad, but it's also true. Number 7. Furry green snake. Well, this is definitely a weird one, there is no doubt about that. In 2022, some local residents in a province in Thailand made a bizarre discovery in a swamp. This furry green snake was spotted by a guy when he was walking near his home. He spotted the 2-foot-long creature wiggling in the dirty water, so he did what any of us would do if we discovered a weird and unknown creature in a swamp. He took it home and placed it in a jar, because of course he did. Then he figured that he would show his new pet to his family, and they were just as puzzled as he was. So they posted it online to see if they could get any answers. They kept the creature at home and fed it with little fish while they were trying to figure out what on earth it could possibly be. Somewhat boringly, they finally discovered what it was, and frankly, it was not even an especially unusual animal after all. It turned out to be a regular old puff-faced water snake that had been hanging out in the swamp for too long and had just gotten some moss growing all over its body. In the end, when the snake shed its skin, it also shed its moss and looked like a normal snake again. Number 6. Two-headed calf. And as promised, here is yet another animal that was blessed with not one noggin but two. This time around, we're with a newborn calf in the northeast of India. This baby cow was born back in 2022 with 2 sets of eyes, 2 mouths, and 2 ears. The little animal is bicephalic, meaning that it has 2 heads, and as we've seen before, this unusual feature occurs in utero in much the same way that conjoined twins happen. When the embryo begins to split but the process is left incomplete, it leaves the 2 parts still fused together. The extent to which this happens can vary. Sometimes it results in 2 complete heads, or even 2 complete heads and torsos, while at other times like this it can result in an animal with almost 2 heads that are still fused at the center. Locals from nearby villages flocked to see this rare calf, with some even considering it a sign of good fortune or a miracle. The calf's unique structure poses challenges, as feeding and mobility can be more difficult compared to a regular calf. Veterinarians have been monitoring its health closely, providing specialized care to support its growth and development. Despite the complications, the calf's owners are committed to giving it the best chance at survival, even though they know it might be a difficult journey. The survival rate is around 38%, but many of these animals don't last until full gestation. This is just a very rare baby indeed. Number 5. Dog with 2 noses. This is a sniffer dog, but with a difference. Toby, the Australian shepherd dog, was rescued from the streets of Fresno in California and was cared for by a shelter. It looked as if nobody was going to offer this unique pooch a home, but at the last minute, his new owner Todd met Toby and saved his life. Todd is an unusual animal lover. He actually holds the Guinness World Record for the largest collection of 2-headed animals. In all fairness, this is likely a niche category with very few competitors, but it would appear as though Todd's passion has proven sufficient enough to please our old clipboard-clutching pals at the Big Book, so he must have had at least a few irregular pets. Todd often attends educational events, bringing along some of his unique animals to teach people about diversity in the animal kingdom. His collection includes not only two-headed reptiles but also other rare animals with unusual traits, all of which are given specialized care and attention. Toby himself is somewhat of an ambassador for these unique creatures, showing people that even the most overlooked animals can find love and purpose. Todd has noticed that Toby has a natural talent for comforting people, often acting as a therapy dog at community gatherings. Todd says that he's simply fascinated by the beautiful differences of unique animals and the lessons that they can teach everyone. And perhaps he's right. Everyone who meets Toby the dog is instantly enchanted by the friendly canine's fabulous personality as well as his unique features. Number 4. Lamb born with a human face. Next up, we have a sinister bit of footage in which you can see a newborn lamb that has an eerily human-like face. This video was apparently filmed in Russia all the way back in 2015, and people were totally freaked out by it. It looked essentially like the eyes, nose, and mouth of a person with the ears of a sheep. It can be heard grunting as it's nuzzled by its regular sheep field. Grazing on a plant that contains a toxin called cyclopean, the toxin then prevents the brain from developing properly in an unborn fetus, causing the unusual facial features that the little goat was born with. Cyclopean affects cell development, leading to a disorder called cyclopia, where facial features may be fused or malformed. This disturbing condition is rare but has been recorded in various animals, including sheep, cattle, and even fish, due to exposure to specific toxins. Scientists believe that these developmental issues can arise not only from toxic plants, but also due to certain environmental or genetic factors. In the wild, animals affected by cyclopia rarely survive, as the deformities impact their ability to feed and evade predators. This particular lamb's case raised awareness about the dangers of environmental toxins and their potential impact on livestock. Sadly, this condition is usually fatal, and most babies and animals born with it do not survive even long enough to be born. Number 3. Cow with 3 horns. Well, here we have a mystery cow that's alleged to have been filmed on a farm in Uganda. Rather than sporting the regular 2 horns that we're used to, it appears to have 3. Weird. There is a very real possibility, of course, this is the internet after all, that this may be a less than 100% genuine piece of footage. The whole thing may have easily been faked, either with an extra horn on the cow, I mean it does seem kind of mad about something, or there's all that marvelous digital trickery of which internet people seem so dreadfully fond these days. Who knows and who cares? Interestingly, though, cases of animals with extra body parts, known as polymelia, are not unheard of in the natural world. This rare condition can sometimes lead to additional limbs or horns as a result of developmental anomalies. In some cultures, animals with unusual features like extra horns are seen as signs of good fortune or spiritual significance, which could explain why the cow has sparked such fascination. There's also the chance of a genetic mutation or an environmental factor contributing to this rare feature. It's possible, too, that selective breeding could play a role in amplifying such rare traits if they are seen as desirable. What do you think, though? Could a cow grow 3 full-sized horns like this, and why might that happen? Go ahead and get involved in the comments section down below. Number 2. Two-legged goat. Animals are amazing now, aren't they? When this little goat was born with only 2 legs, she found a way to walk and not only survive but also thrive with only half the standard allocation of limbs. The goat was captured for the internet by her owners in China all the way back in 2016. They demonstrate how the little animal has adapted to walk confidently and with remarkable stability on just the 2 front legs with which she was born. Goats are famously pretty stubborn animals, and even though we usually associate that kind of grumpy behavior with them, this goat has shown how stubbornness can lead to incredible abilities in the face of adversity. Her unique gait has drawn a lot of attention, inspiring people worldwide as they watch her hop along on her front limbs with unwavering determination. Veterinarians were initially concerned about the strain on her spine and joints, but she seems to have adapted well to her unconventional mode of movement. Her story has encouraged others to share videos of animals overcoming similar challenges, from dogs with missing limbs to cats using customized wheelchairs. Her owners have even provided her with special care, ensuring she receives a diet rich in nutrients to support her unique physiology. This little goat has become a symbol of resilience and adaptability, proving that sometimes nature finds a way, even when faced with what seem like insurmountable obstacles. Perhaps we could all learn a little bit from this incredible two-legged goat. Number 1. Two-legged dog. Here we have a dog with a disability that was famous for overcoming such difficulties that she even got to show off her skills and charm on Oprah. That is surely the highest accolade that anyone, dog or human, could possibly achieve. In fact, Oprah even went so far as to say that the pooch was one of her favorite guests. Faith was a miracle dog who had taught herself to walk upright on only 2 legs. She was born that way and was one of a litter of puppies born in the winter in a flea market yard in Oklahoma City. Several of her siblings did not end up making it. However, Faith was rescued, and she made it through those very first few difficult weeks. Despite her physical challenges, she grew and became stronger, and then found her place in the world. Faith eventually became famous for her job visiting U.S. soldiers to meet and inspire injured and returning soldiers. She always made a big impression on the troops and even gained an honorary title of E5 Sergeant out of Fort Lewis for her work. This ceremony was witnessed by thousands of troops, and when she wasn't entertaining them, she was a children's reading program dog, where she would sit quietly while children read to her. She would even, weirdly, go on tour with Ozzy Osbourne. Faith lived a full life and overcame enormous odds just to survive. She went on to inspire thousands of people and will be remembered by many. She passed away peacefully in 2014. That's a wrap on the weird and wonderful world of unusual animals. Did anything today freak you out, or maybe inspire you with incredible stories of survival? Perhaps you even have a unique animal of your own. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Check out the other cool videos on the screen, and I'll see you next time.